Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to the Nerd Nook. I'm your host, Evan Teague, and with me, like always, is Noah Bailey. So, with the new year here, we're officially in 2025, and we believe that the best way to celebrate this new year is looking back at 2024 and going over what we believe to be the 10 best comic book projects of last year. This can be DC, Marvel, anything that has a comic book adaptation. We'll be judging it. It could be a movie, TV show, game, actual comics if we read any of those. so, so yeah. Mind if I kick us off with my number 10?
Please do, yeah.
Okay. So this was a pretty late contender, but I honestly genuinely believe that it deserves to be on this list. It's might be cheating a little bit since it's like kind of barely content, but I genuinely feel like it's one of the best comic book things to come out last year. The teaser trailer for the Superman movie. That was a really good trailer.
That's right. I'll allow it, yeah.
like, we've been excited for let me put it this way. I feel like and I'm sure you also have been excited for this movie ever since Man of Steel came out, even though we didn't know we were excited for this movie. You know what I'm saying? None of the trailers for Man of Steel or BVS or any of the movies that Zack Snyder worked on were like my thing at all. They didn't get me excited at all. Yeah, the music was cool, but outside of that, just nothing really appealed to me. But nearly every single thing about this trailer just makes me excited to be a comic book fan, let alone a Superman fan. Like, I am ready for this movie to come out in about 7 months.
Yeah, definitely. And again, like we've talked about, it's so exciting to see a movie where Superman looks like Superman. He not only just visually, but he gives hope, he inspires people, he goes out of his way to save people as he should.
Mm-hmm.
Very much, yeah, in some areas you're like, wow, that looks a little I guess I don't want to say corny, but kind of kind of oh, it's like the cheesy classic superhero comic book, but
Yeah,
I think that's what it's going for. I think that works for it.
exactly. I think Superman should be allowed to be at least a little corny, if not a lot corny. Like, he's Superman.
It
It's
is
fine.
Superman. Yeah. And again, it looks good. I mean, it looks really good. People have been really excited talking about it. It's
Mm-hmm.
very, and it's kind of the culmination of what we've been kind of hoping for a while, that I hope this is really Superman. And it's so far, yeah,
Yeah.
looks the part. The costume looks good for the most part. I mean, yeah, some parts people nitpick here and there, but everybody looks in character. It looks like it's really gonna take itself seriously, but not too seriously. But remember, it's a comic book movie,
Yeah.
and very much keep to the source material with that, which
Yes.
is what I think we're all really excited about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there will be some serious moments, but Crypto is still in the movie, so it inherently can't be too serious, you know?
Right.
Plus, that's James Gunn's whole deal. Like, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, yes, they are very joke heavy. They do have a pop soundtrack, but those movies have heart and very serious moments, and I think that will, you know, flow into Superman very seamlessly and very naturally, and I think it's gonna be good. So that's that trailer, at 2 minute whatever trailer. It's one of my favorite comic book things of last year.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, it's doing really good. It gives me hope that there's going to
Mm-hmm.
be a Superman that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. I'm excited about it too.
Mm-hmm. All right, you're number 10.
Okay. So my number 10 is Marvel Rivals. Now, this
Ooh,
game
yes,
has
yes.
really taken off I know it just came out like a month ago, but I mean,
Mm.
I mean, everyone I know is talking about this game. It's oh, this is awesome, and all this, and man, Iron Fist is so OP. Like all these, like you know, what I mean, like everybody's
Mm,
talking, and it came out of, it's just kind of like, I haven't played this game much. I've jumped on it a little bit, but I mean, it's kind of wild how fast this has kind of taken off like wildfire. Because I mean, this type of game with Overwatch and Apex, like these type of like arena shooter kind of things has kind of been going
mhm.
for a while. But for this to just kind of show up, and honestly, I remember hearing about this and thinking, nah, I don't know if that's gonna work. Like,
Yeah,
but it's working. I mean,
yeah,
it's killing it
it's
so
working.
far.
Yeah, I've put tens of maybe even 50 plus hours into this game since it launched earlier in December, and
Mhm.
yeah, like there are a ton of characters that I actually really enjoy playing. With Overwatch, there was like four or five I kind of like swap between. Like there, I don't know, I just never really got into characters like Genji or Roadhog or whatever. But like in this one, I have a couple of tanks. Magneto is incredible. I never really play healers in games like this. That's just not my play style. But Cloak and Dagger, I think fit like what I want to be doing very nicely. Like honestly, I feel like maybe I'm just playing them wrong, but I feel like Dagger is almost feels a little too like she hits a little too hard for me to feel like I even need to switch to switch to Cloak. But um, like regardless, it's very satisfying being able to heal and damage opponents at the same time. Star Lord is very fun. Punisher and Winter Soldier are very good if you just want to running gun. Um, yeah, it's been very fun so far.
It's a really good game, and it's good to have kind of like for Marvel to not forget, like, hey, we can also do games too. I mean, obviously, like the Spider-Man games recently have been
Mm,
really good and things like that, but kind of really kind of reintroducing that as more mainstream things when like, hey, like we can make this too.
yeah, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned that when this game was first announced, people weren't really sure if it would work. I want to kind of contrast what happened with Marvel Rivals with a game like Concord, which apparently that game, the people that played it for the 2 weeks it was out, the people that played it thought it was actually pretty good. It just had absolutely garbage marketing, and it was not the game that people thought it would be based on the original cinematic, based on what the trailers presented. Um, and like immediately when those trailers first came out, like once gameplay was shown, it's like, oh, it's just another Overwatch clone. It's apparently a pretty good Overwatch clone, but it's just an Overwatch clone. Whereas with Marvel Rivals, the game was first announced back in like February or March of this year. And yeah, a lot of people were like, oh, it's an Overwatch clone, but with Marvel characters being developed by a mobile developer. Like people just didn't really give it his credit. And then like more characters started getting announced. It's like, oh, Moon Knight looks really cool. Oh, Doctor Doom is like this overarching villain that will, I guess, eventually, have to deal with like Spider-Man and Venom, like just all these different like team combos that people can do. Like that's really interesting. Like on top of it being inherently interesting because it has Marvel characters, I just think there's a lot about the gameplay itself that does set it apart from Overwatch. Like especially the team, like the like like the team combo attacks. I think that's something that I really hope other hero shooters of the genre kind of not copy, but kind of take inspiration from because that at least right now sets it apart from other stuff like Overwatch and Concord. So when it finally came out, I think it just it was a perfect storm to end up doing very well.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'll talk about it more up since I have played a lot more. It's a little higher
Yeah,
for me, but
I
it's good.
assumed as much. Yeah, just because I haven't played it that much, but I know everyone else has been, so I knew it had to be on here, but just not
Yeah,
for me
yeah.
personally.
Who are your mains if you have any at this point?
Dude, I just picked up. I didn't really. I only played a couple of times. I did Magneto,
Mm,
Spider-Man, of course. I did do Catch Captain America, and yeah, everyone's like, "Don't pick Captain America." I was like, "Oh, come on, it's Captain America."
He
They
seems like
were like,
a very high skill ceiling player, but like I couldn't. He didn't seem to really do what I wanted to do, and it just
"Yeah,
same with Black Panther. I tried him. I don't know. I don't really like the
yeah,
melee type characters in games like this.
yeah." I mean, it's very like I do like how the like your play style varies based on like what characters you get. I think that's really cool, but it's also like I feel like everyone kind of has one or two they like, and no one wants to play the other types. And it's like,
Mm,
well, do you really need it? And it's like, well, yes
yeah,
and no, but you know.
yeah. It is. It was funny. Like the first week this game was out, people that had come over from Overwatch. When Overwatch first came out, um, back in 2016, like it, the way it played, you could have a full team of tracers. Like every single person could be the
Mhm.
same person. You could have a full team of tanks. Like it wasn't there wasn't any kind of role queue. There wasn't like you could have multiple heroes of the same hero on each team. And then kind of later in development, and then into Overwatch 2, they specifically made it so there has to be a certain number of X kind of hero on each team. You can't have dupes on each team, and people got used to that for Overwatch. So then when they came over to Marvel Rivals, they were getting really annoyed when people weren't picking a tank or a healer and it was just
Mhm.
full of assault heroes. So people, the people who were like big on Overwatch were demanding that they include a role queue, and all the Marvel people that were just playing Marvel Rivals were like, "No, that would ruin the fun." I agree with these people.
Yeah, it's like I like how there's no like I always like in video games where there's just infinite choice where
Yes.
it's like, if you want to be that group who like we only get one of each type, like you can, but if you just all want to do one thing,
Hmm.
that's fine too. Like I feel like
Yeah.
that there's no reason to limit the fun when you can just make those rules on your own.
Especially if you're role queuing as a healer, then you never have the opportunity to try out any of the assault or tank characters.
Hmm.
Because I feel that's what it has right now. Like that's kind of what made me try to branch out into characters like Cloak and Dagger, who I ended up really liking. Is like I should probably have a pocket healer just in case I have a full team of all
Hmm.
attackers. Um, and same with the tank with Magneto. Uh, it's just it, it kind of forces the player to assess. Okay, will this team of Star Lord, Spider Man, Wolverine, Iron Fist, and Punisher, or whatever, like will that team be able to figure this out? Or do we need a healer or a tank? And if not, I can switch to the Groot or Rocket or someone else that can maybe help. Um, yeah, and I think that's gonna make for an overall better gameplay experience.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Like I said, I'll talk about that more up later on. My number 9 is the Batman the Cape Crusader short one Amazon
Okay.
Prime.
Yeah.
Um, I had always been a little skeptical of this show because it was announced like 4 years ago with no concept art, just the poster. And it's like, oh, Matt Reeves, J.J. Abrams, and Paul Dini, not Paul Dini, the other guy. Not Paul
Alan
Dini.
Burnett.
Huh?
Alan Burnett, maybe? I'm trying to.
Um,
No. Who are those guys?
oh no. The other guy that worked on the animated series.
Uh, Hold on.
Man,
Wait, where's your casual is showing? Ah!
no.
Uh, let's see. Um,
Bruce Tim. You start with a B.
oh,
Bruce
yeah.
Tim.
Wait.
Yeah,
I thought you said that already.
I said Paul Dini.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't Paul Dini. It was Bruce Tim. Yeah, Matt
Okay,
Reeves,
yeah.
J.J. Abrams, and Bruce Tim are
Hmm.
like the showrunners of this. So, like that's an
Yeah.
interesting group. And then it's one of those shows that like no information was came out about it for 4 years, and then like trailer, and then released the next week. Like you didn't really have enough
Pretty
time to
much,
like
yeah.
really get excited. So when the first trailer came out, you're like, oh, that art style is interesting. Like it's not bad. I don't know. It just looked a little. It's kind of basic, and then like the action sequences in the trailer looked fine. The characters, like the voices and like like everything from the trailers made it look fine. And then when the show came out, it ended up being fine. Like nothing to like, gush about, but also wasn't terrible either. Like I've seen better Batman stuff, but also seen worse Batman stuff, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Also, I know I said this before, but I was really, really hoping that this, like with the time period the show was set in, with just how they were doing other villains, I was really, really hoping that we would actually get like an actual Red Hood who then turns into the Joker. But instead, the post credit scene is just, oh hey, Joker's around. Like I don't know. I was hoping for something a little more creative, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, especially where it feels like that's just all we're doing lately.
yeah,
Like, whether it's, the Batman with Matt Reeves, it's like, oh yeah, the Joker's also here, just FYI. Or, the Joker's just here. It's like, yeah, maybe. I mean, I understand the Joker's obviously its biggest villain, biggest money line, things like that, but it's also like, with a show that's really seeming to like at least somewhat getting the bag of various, rogues and whatnot that Batman has, which he has,
mm,
1,000. Maybe not use the most obvious one right off the bat. Well, I guess
yeah.
not use it, but like tease it right off the bat. But
Mm,
yeah, I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I guess you kind of you got to give him something to make sure we get a season two, I guess. But
I guess, but it's Batman. Like you can. There's so many other villains you could have used. Like I don't necessarily think that you should just go straight into like League of Assassins stuff, but there's a lot of other villains you could either like tease along the way or just assume that they'll come at some point. I do really like how the show, progressed Two Face. You started off, very being very chummy with Bruce, and then like a couple of things were showing that he was clearly taking money from people he shouldn't have, and trying to build up his mayoral campaign. And when that crashed and burned, he just naturally after the accident became Two Face. And that I don't like his design. I think they should have gone a little harder with what his face looked like. But as far as the progression of the character, I think I think that was done very well.
yeah, I think they did a good job, like, slowly deciding his descent, especially after the accident. I do think it was an interesting. I don't dislike the choice. I think it was interesting. It felt new that like he wasn't just like the best dude ever
Mm.
before like an accident. He was kind of like kind of a jerk,
Yeah.
kind of before, which kind of which I think is good because I feel like if you like I do like the idea of building up a character before breaking them down, but at the same time, if he's like this perfect character and then just 180s into a complete monster, you're kind of like, where'd that come from? So I do
Yeah.
like how he didn't exactly start perfect. He was more
Mm.
like he did good things for the wrong reason, and then that kind of descended into now I just do bad
Yeah.
things.
And I really like it when Two Face is kind of like a nickname he has going into
Mm,
being Two Face. Like, he's a lawyer, he's a politician. Like, yeah, he's gonna say some
Two
things that
Face.
aren't exactly completely true, and I think
Hmm.
that's fun that he kind of has that name thrust on him before actually becoming Two Face, and I dig that.
Yeah, that's usually something that like that's good when like they have that with villains or whatnot. Like, they just kind of have that going, or at least like a small nod to it
Hmm.
before, so the villain name kind of just happens naturally.
Yeah, I do wonder if we're ever going to get like Deadshot as an actual character, because we got Floyd Lawton very briefly in a failed assassination attempt. like the one thing Deadshot is known for is shooting good, and the one time that character was in the show, he didn't shoot good. So no.
Yeah, I mean, there'll probably be at least another season. I mean, I don't think the show did bad, but it was one of those shows that once it was over, you didn't hear anything about it. But I don't think, for an animated show on Amazon Prime, I mean, outside of a few, that's pretty common.
Yeah, complete tangent. But my roommate and I were talking about this the other day. He suggested there'd be, a in like a Flash show or like a DC expanded universe show where Flash is like the main character of this episode. He thought it would be cool if Deadshot were a Flash villain for that episode. And essentially, you know how Floyd's whole thing is he like bounces bullets like around and like you don't ever like really
Hmm.
know like where they came from. Since I feel like a lot of things that involve Flash don't really emphasize his like detectiveness. He's a CSI and like his whole thing is looking at a dead body trying to figure out what happened. So like, he sees the entry hole on the bullet and like there's no possible way they could have, they could have come from that angle. And I think, we the audience doesn't really know like, who did it. We just know, these pretty important people are getting killed in ways that don't make sense. And eventually, we find out that it actually is Deadshot, being hired by somebody to kill these people. I think something that could help emphasize Flash's, detective skills
Yeah, that would
would
be
be
cool.
interesting.
Almost like you could almost make it kind of like a flash time thing where he sees the bullet being fired, follows its reverse trajectory at
Mm-hmm.
super speed, and then basically goes all the way, finds where Deadshot's actually firing from him and stops him in a second. But the whole episode's like, it's a whole episode, but it takes place over the course of like 5 seconds or something.
Yeah, that's cool.
That'd be awesome.
Like,
And then the next episode, Flash, someone runs away.
yeah,
It's just like,
that's kind of the pitfall you run into with Flash stuff.
I mean,
Like,
my thing is like, again, I know it's harder to do, but whenever you have OP characters, I mean, it takes more effort to essentially write around their powers, but it can be done.
mhm, yeah. All right. You're number 9.
Yeah, yeah. My number 9, I have Superman and Lois final season that just
Oh,
ended on the
I
CW.
missed that
So
show, so I'm glad you.
yeah, it highly recommend. It's done. It's Superman, in my opinion, done very well. Obviously, it is a CW show, so there
Yeah.
are two things that I don't like, which is unnecessary subplots that we don't care about,
Well,
and the occasional like CGI that's like ooh, but story wise, main thematically wise, understanding the main character, it does a very good job of getting Superman right, especially when the show first came out before like the whole James Gunn takeover thing. I was kind of like, wow, this is like the best version of Superman I've seen in a hot minute because a
mm,
large portion of the show is Superman just kind of like going around saving people, whether he's like he'll like fly across the world, stop an avalanche, or he'll somehow find out
mm,
that there's a submarine in like somewhere in Asia just like about to implode, and they just go grab it. And I do like that they really make it about he's kind of the world's hero, not just Metropolis or
mm.
Smallville or whatever.
Yeah.
But specifically in this season, it's the last season because I assume one, it means just time, but also probably they're probably also like, well, with James Gunn thing starting, like DC always is like one version of the character for however long, which again I
Mm,
don't really get because like I don't. I mean, I kind of get it, but I kind of don't. But it is what it is. Besides the point we talked about with the
yeah.
Batman thing last week. But anyway, basically, like the season does a lot of good things well. I think it. There's some really good moments where you're like, wow, that was the most Superman thing I've ever seen.
Good.
There's like, there's a moment where basically he reveals his identity that's really well done, and I think it's just a lot of it's just a very underrated show. I think if you're a fan of Superman, you
Mm,
would like the show. And even if you don't like the whole show, there are moments in just about every episode that you're like, that was well done.
good. Very good. Like, is it at least as far as CW is concerned? Is it at least like
Yeah.
better tier than like? the
I
Flash
would.
and all
It's
those.
not better. It's not better than like season two Arrow or like season one Flash, but like I would say it's definitely like the next best thing that they put
Okay,
out.
good. Yeah, probably check that out at some point. It's
Yeah.
also not like in the same universe as those other CW shows. So you can kind of watch it
Mm.
on its own, right?
Yes, 100%. You can watch independently. You don't need. It doesn't really I mean, it's the same characters or the same actors slash character from a couple crossovers they had with Superman and Lois, but like that stuff doesn't really come into play at
Mm.
all. So
Okay, cool. All right, my number 8 is Invincible season 2, part 2. Is
yeah, yeah,
that also
same.
yours? Yeah.
That's my yeah. Yeah. It would be
It's
higher, but like you only gave us half a season, so like
yeah, exactly.
no.
If it were all 8 episodes, it'd probably be, six, like 5 or 6 ish around there. But because it's only
Yeah.
4 episodes, like that's as high as you get. Sorry.
After waiting
hmm
and then waiting again.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah, like it. It's like it's good. I really liked it. I liked that first episode ended with every single person getting absolutely, just like seemingly dead or something really bad happening, and then like
So brutal.
they have to like deal with that for their episodes. I liked the other Viltrumite lady that showed up. Um, I what was even his name? The main villain in the last episode. What was his
Oh,
name?
Angstrom?
Yeah, I felt like, especially because there was that break, his impact at the end didn't feel like as big as it should have because the last time you really saw him was during the first part of season 1, and then there was that 3 month break, and then you didn't see him again till like an after credits part of like episode 7 or so. Like it wasn't like you didn't really him like his powers developing and like he didn't really feel the connection anymore by the time he finally came back because you, the audience member, waited so long before his first introduction until now. And the fight itself is pretty good. I like seeing Mark dimension hop and stuff, but
Mm.
it just wasn't as impactful, especially not as impactful as either the mid season break or especially the season finale of season 1.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean it's weird too because like yeah, it really just it it started high and then the second half kind of just felt like a bridge season, which like I don't know, for me I remember just the ending and I was just kind of like like I mean it was like yeah like again it like it felt like they built up Angstrom a lot more than he ended up being. I'm not saying he didn't, he wasn't doing stuff or he did, but he kind of just I don't know, it just felt like he was kind of just the like we're past the time villain, which I know that is what he was, but like,
Mm.
you don't want to make him feel that way, or that's just really not
Yeah.
great. And especially with the whole I feel like we're a little multiversed out a lot lately too, so I don't think
Mm.
that helped. But
Yeah. I feel like the vibe they were going for was like kind of similar to the finale of season 1 of the Flash TV show, where like the whole season is building towards Eobard getting his powers back and like or like well, not really getting his powers, but like slowly like revealing to the audience who this character is, like slowly revealing his plan, and then in this climactic moment showing that yeah, he was the guy that killed Barry's mom. Like I feel like making it a very personal fight between Barry and Reverse Flash. Whereas here, I know you didn't have as many episodes to work with, but like Angstrom's personal beef with Mark just didn't really feel it.
no, at all. Like, and it was tough too because like it felt like a lot of episodes that like if we needed to develop this, we kind of just didn't. Because I feel like Angstrom felt like he was only in 3 episodes.
Yeah.
And when you only have 8, and there's a mid-season break,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, wait, who's this guy? Kind of be, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's just
Especially
kind of, it
when
felt,
the mid-season break, like finale thing happened on another planet fighting 3 Viltrumites at the same time. Like that felt much bigger than this. So not that I think they should have switched, but like I don't know, like when the mid-season break feels like a bigger deal to the audience than the actual finale. I don't know. That just
yeah. I mean,
mm,
for me, the 3 biggest moments or the most memorable things I'm gonna remember from this season are the the fight with the 3 Viltrumites with him and Nolan, the Lizard League out of nowhere,
yeah.
basically get like I will never forget that. I was not expecting that.
Mm,
And then kind of just and then getting bodied by Anissa out of nowhere and just like, oh crap. Like I don't like the Angstrom stuff is just kind of like it also happened this season, but it felt so flat, which I
mm-hmm.
hate because again, I really want Sterling K. Brown does an amazing job as an actor, especially
Yeah.
voices. His voice is very iconic. And also like I want this character to be important. The show really wants you to like be in on this character, but you just completely just eh.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I think season 3, is coming out in just a month and a half or so at this point. So from the trailers, it looks like more stuff will be happening in that season overall, and there won't be a mid-season break. So hopefully, it'll be a little higher, come next year when we
Hopefully.
dual rank these again.
Yeah, I think so. I have faith this time. I feel like the middle season was kind of maybe they were just kind of getting things together and kind of putting certain things in place. I'm hoping that this season I feel like I don't know. They might this because I don't want them to string out this whole Viltrumite invasion thing too long because it's kind of like they've been coming for the past 2 seasons now, so it's like
Yeah.
are they ever gonna get here? But I don't know. I mean, it's still a really good show. They've done it really well. They just got to be more consistent with it, and also just make sure we don't lose focus.
Right. All right. Speaking of a show that I think maybe losing a little steam and this season felt a little fillery. The Boys season 4 is my number 7. I really like the show a lot. I think like almost every single character is really well written, especially like the main named ones are really very well written. But just something about this season felt a little off. I can't quite put my finger on it, but a lot of other people online just kind of had this same collective feeling where this season had an end goal. Like something had to happen at the very end, and essentially the show was just kind of doing stuff until the last 20 minutes. And I think season 5, which is supposed to be the last season, is going to be incredible based on what happened at the very end. But there's just a couple of I don't know. There's a couple of things I wish were a couple of characters I wished were like made better decisions. There's a couple of moments I feel should have been a little bigger. There's this new character they introduced who is this character deemed the smartest person on the planet, and she's just written in this way that like she's not a bad character, but I saw an analysis of it where it's like the problem with having to write a character who's deemed the smartest person on the planet is the person can only be as smart as the writers who are writing them.
Yes.
And not that I think the writers aren't good at their job. It just felt like she could have done. It's either her plan seemed really obvious, or she only knew what was happening because she had the script. It's like, oh, of course she would know this because she's smart. No, she only knew this because the writers of her knew what was going to happen. So like, it felt kind of forced the things that she was orchestrating. Like it didn't really come together very nicely. Um, there was this absolutely incredible subplot with Billy Butcher where he at the end of season 3 after consuming an unhealthy amount of the like temp V stuff that temporarily gave some superpowers,
Mm.
um, he has this brain tumor caused by that, and this whole season is him like basically being on death's door the whole time, like trying to save face but clearly not being in good health. But like every now and then, like he'll kind of black out and something horrible will happen. Like you're not really sure what that was, and the whole season, there's this character played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan who is like this other agent guy who Billy apparently like worked with in the past, who was just not giving him the best advice. Like, is what Billy wanted to hear, but it wasn't like, I'd say good, as far as like, for the greater good type advice. Um, and then in like episode like 6 or 7, you finally realize that this character was completely in Billy's head, and it's just been like essentially the tumor talking to him to keep making him worse and worse person to the point where at the very end of the show, like at the end of the season, like they were kind of about to concoct a plan that would actually work against Homelander, and then Billy came out of nowhere and just like stopped it, therefore causing Homelander to essentially take over the world, more or less. So that on
So we Star
rewatch,
Lorded, I see.
yeah, on rewatch, it might actually be more engaging because now you know that like this character isn't real, so like you
You just
might
ignore
see things in a
everything.
different light. Um, but I will say Homelander in particular was done very, very well in this season. You just there's a lot of opportunity for this character to just be the worst possible person on the planet, and it's very satisfying to watch. Like you already knew this character wasn't a good guy. You already knew that he, is you know is definitely a villain, but just the way they delved so much more into it, just I don't know. I really like that. Like to the point where even like the smartest person on the planet, lady who was kind of pulling the strings to make him kind of skew more evil, kind of like was shocked by just how far he went, and I dug that. But yeah, I think the next season, which is coming out in I guess 2 years or so, um, will end very strongly. I just kind of wish this season. I wish a little more had happened to like make me super excited for next season. I'm excited, just not like as excited as I was for season 4 after season 3, which was very good. That makes sense.
Yeah. It's like, it's like not every season can be my favorite season, but, there's a difference between this was a down season and just this wasn't peak
Yeah,
of the show.
yeah, and I think this is kind of a problem indicative of how shows are made nowadays because there are only 8 episodes. Like we were kind of talking with earlier the year with the Acolyte. Some of the episodes are actually pretty good. However, because you only have 8, or even sometimes for Disney's sake 6, you have so few episodes. If even half of an episode is not to your liking, that's a good portion of the show that you're just not into. And 3 of the 8 episodes of The Boys season 4 are just kind of okay. Not only is that a good portion of this season, there's only going to be about 40 episodes of the entire show, so that's like a good portion of the entire show that you're just not that into. So it makes those disappointments feel bigger than when it's like you're back in the day when there was a standard 22 episodes per season. If 1 or 2 episodes weren't okay, or they're focused on characters you don't love, like you can just skip like the droid episodes of Clone Wars. There's 46 other
Nice.
episodes you can watch that don't have them, or whatever. Um, Whereas here, important stuff happens the whole time, so you can't really skip them, but also you're not loving it the whole time. So
Right. It's not the stuff you really want to see, but you can't miss something important. There's 5 seconds of this episode that you have to watch it
Yeah.
because if you don't, you're gonna miss something important for the next. Yeah, it's kind of
Mm.
like it's like I mean I'm glad you brought Clone Wars because it's just like the whole Martez Sixer arc in season 7 of Clone Wars because it's like
Yeah.
I don't again it's like I don't like if this was again this was 20 something episodes like we just have unlimited whatever sure fine whatever we have Jar Jar sock we have Jar Jar
Mm.
arcs it's fine but when going in we only have 12
Yes.
and then you use 4 of them on something no one cares about that could have been like at max 2.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
it makes us sad.
Yeah, kind of ironically that every now and then I'll see like a Clone Wars clip on Twitter that I have never seen before. It's a clip of like a clone going absolutely commando mode on like a swarm of droids going out in a blaze of glory. And it's like, what is this from? And oh, it's from that arc where Anakin was having beef with that one banking clan guy.
Yep.
And it's like,
Yep.
I skipped that episode. Nothing happened in that episode.
I remember that episode. That episode was actually pretty awesome. But
yeah, like apparently this one 10-second clip is so good.
Yes.
Maybe I should watch that entire 4-episode arc.
Yes. I think it's Commander Thorne's Last Stand, I think is his name. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like there's these like little even in the more like episodes, there're gonna be these like, ooh, that's like great. There's little pockets of great TV right in there.
All right. You're number 7.
Okay. So my number 7, we talked about this earlier, but I also have Batman the Cape Crusader at 7. I have it a little higher because I mean I just like Batman stuff. But kind of like you said, it kind of felt like okay, like I was very interested with it because it was like part of it I was really getting into and like okay yes Batman we're back we're kind of in a more old timey thing but it was also weird because it was a lot of character choices I didn't exactly love or oh we sure we want to focus on this more and like some I thought was really interesting like I really kind of liked how they did Harley Quinn to be a little more of her own thing but also kind of a different take on how she actually uses her background as part of her villainousness, which is kind of cool, which I think makes a lot of sense. But then also, you have like, oh, the Penguin's gonna be a woman for some reason that doesn't really change anything about the story, just kind of wants to like, and it's like, I mean, it's not bad, but it's just kind of like, okay, like I don't know, like I don't know. It was just stuff like that where kind of like, and the other thing I don't totally love is I felt like a lot of the like one thing I always like about like with Batman shows is they really do a good job with like the dynamic between like Bruce Wayne and Batman and making it work. And I think there were some moments that definitely did show some good Bruce Wayne moments. There were a lot where I was just kind of like I don't know. I don't love like he does a good job, but it's just like I don't know. I guess I expected them to focus on it more a little bit. Not so much that we're like going into like his backstory for the 1,000th time or anything like that, but it kind of felt like we kind of just didn't talk about it. It kind of felt like it almost felt like it was a Batman show, but Batman didn't feel like it was in it as much. Like, both Bruce and Batman felt like they were kind of certain episodes, they didn't even feel like they were in it, more or less.
Yeah. I do really like the one specific characterization of Bruce is that whenever he is alone, whenever he's talking to Alfred, who he refers to as Pennyworth almost the entire show, which I think is very, very fun. He is always in his Batman voice. Whenever he's completely alone in the cave or in the mansion, he's in his Batman voice. So he's in Batman mode 24/7 pretty much. And I like that a lot. And then by the end, he finally actually gains respect for Alfred and actually calls him Alfred. I dug that. But yeah, there were not that I disliked Montoya. Not that I disliked her or disliked Barbara, but large chunks of several episodes had them in it when it's a Batman show, and I kind of wanted or like more with like Gordon and other GCPD people that like I know they're Batman characters, but I want to see Batman do stuff.
Right. It kind of felt like Batman only showed up at the last minute in a lot of episodes to save people, which, is very Batman like, but it never felt like like usually in a Batman show, we see we see what's going on, we see the event, and then we kind of also see behind the scenes Batman putting the pieces together behind the scenes and then rushing to wherever to be there at the last possible moment. And here
Mhm.
we kind of get robbed of that middle part where Batman's kind of like doing things behind the scenes. It kind of feels like Batman just kind of also shows up. Like the show
Yeah.
tries to replace the Batman figuring out with just like GCPD figuring things out. And then, like, for example, like
Mm.
the onomatopoeia episode where they're like, they're being chased, and then they
Mm.
kind of find out near the end, oh, one of our guys is dirty. Like, I feel like it would have been a lot cooler, at least for me, if like Batman had found out and at the last second, like,
Mm.
did more to like, oh, this guy. It's like, wait, what's Batman doing? And it's like, oh no, Batman's actually like, I don't know. I just felt like I
Yeah.
know you're trying to make the other characters important, and they are. I'm just saying, it feels like I don't know. Yeah, I feel like you kind of robbed Batman of some prime Batman moments potentially.
Yeah. I also I also think Batman's costume design was a little lacking. I like the era that the suit is referencing. However, I think the cape was a little distracting because the way it was over his shoulders, it it like kind of draped just a little bit below his shoulders and not below that ever. I feel like it was either if it was either all behind his back or completely around him, it would have looked a lot better. Because I don't know, I feel like especially like early Batman really focuses a lot of hiding in the shadows and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I like when he completely drapes it around him completely. Um, and just with that art style, it just looked it didn't look good on him in my opinion. But like the ears and belt and everything else looked pretty good. But it looked good otherwise. Just the cape was now that alone was a little distracting for me. Um, but that might just be me nitpicking. But
You're a cape enthusiast.
yeah, yeah. Um, uh, I think I did one kind of exception to that. I do, or to the like being more of a Barbara Gordon show, as some people try to say. I did really like the Clayface episode. I thought he was done
Yes.
like in a very creative way, and Batman wasn't really in that as much. So yeah, if
Yeah.
Matt Reeves doesn't want to do full on big clay monster Clayface and wants to do something more similar to that for his next movie, that'd be cool.
I think that would definitely work better than just giant clay monster. One, because I feel like this Batman wouldn't be prepared for that, but
Yeah.
also just like, yeah, I feel like that would just kind of work. Especially how we've seen the streets of Gotham. It kind of feels like a man who's able to just shape shift and be in an already shady city just kind of fits perfectly.
Hmm. So yeah, it's a fine enough show. If there's a season two, I would watch it, but like
Mm-hmm.
there's other stuff to to tide me over. Even if we ever get another show or another season. So plus there's other other even I think better Batman shows I could be watching. So um, my number 6 is My Adventures with Superman season 2.
Nice.
Is that your 6?
Not my six, but
Okay.
close.
Yeah. The main takeaway I got away from this season is I adored this Brainiac. I think they got the voice down perfectly. I think his design is incredible. Uh, just the intensity he had with everything he said, everything he did was amazing. Um, I really like how Supergirl fit into everything he was doing. Um, I even really liked, let me put it this way. I really liked the Lois and Jimmy little like subplot of them trying to go to
The
where,
space.
where Clark is. However, um, I think the way it was presented, it would have been stronger if those episodes were switched. Because the way it currently is, uh, they the brain and Monsieur Mallow came back, built that ship for them, or retrofitted that ship for them, and then they went off into space. And then the ending of that episode is Supergirl being there. Obviously, Jimmy and Lois are scared because the last time they saw Supergirl, she kidnapped Clark. However, we, the audience, already know that she's already turned over a new leaf. So I feel like if we had that episode of them trying to get up there, the first thing that, the next time both we and Lois see Supergirl is then. And then the next episode, we kind of flash back to Clark waking up and everything happening there and Supergirl, rebelling. I think that would have been a little stronger, but they're both still good episodes, so it doesn't really matter. I just think that's one minor thing I personally would have switched. Also, as good as the climax was, I'm always a sucker for climaxes of a show having every single major character coming back in a big moment, and even heroes, villains alike just coming together to do an epic thing. There were, I think, on my second watch of it, I counted at least 4 different moments of a character being like, "Oh no!" About to get shot, and then
Save
someone
the
else
last
randomly
second.
coming in and
Yeah.
and saving them. At least 4 different times that happened.
I mean, it is Superman, so it's about saving people, but yeah, it's kind of a bit much.
Yeah, oh no, we have 10 uh 10 Metallobots, which I don't love how they did Metallo. I think that was a huge misstep because
Yeah.
you call it Metallo, yet they can be crushed by one swing of a hammer. That's a little weird. Anyway, there's 10 Metallobots, and then the the Suicide Squad come out of nowhere, destroy them. Oh, later, Amanda Waller is talking to somebody, and oh no, another Metallobot, and then Lois's dad goes out of nowhere and shoots it. It's that's it's just a little too many
Much.
times in the span of 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. And it is kind of it kind of feels like it's just kind of it's going on. It's oh, I know, oh, the world's gonna end, so it makes sense, but it's also really, come on,
Yeah. Oh, and they did that classic thing I hate where a character, two characters are talking. They're talking about character 3. Character 3 is about to round the corner, and they overhear the two characters talking about them. And it's
Yeah.
this character smells really bad. It's oh no. He's but
Oh,
I
no.
like his smell, but they can't. Or that thing.
Right. Which has been done 137 billion times, but
first of all, Superman, he should know that Lois doesn't, even if she is actually saying that, she doesn't mean it. She's either theoretically upset or just venting or whatever. But also, when she did do the reverse of but I love him for it, he's Superman. He can hear her. He just decided not to hear the rest of the conversation.
Yeah. It's one of those things too where it's I mean, I guess super hearing can be selective, but still, you probably should have heard that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's the thing. It's I understand they're trying to go for it. So, it's lighthearted. It's trying to be normal, but then also it's oh, but with Superman. But it's also come on, that's A, that's been done to death, and B, that shouldn't even work. So but
yeah,
eh.
but I adore how anime the climax got.
As it should.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the show already kind of leans into that on occasion anyway, so it makes sense for
I
the
mean, so
last
much to
couple
the
of
point that
things.
Supergirl was literally dressed like Android 18.
Yeah, that was
Cool.
kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was cool. I was like, I see what you did there.
Yeah. But yeah, it's. I think season two overall was pretty solid, at least as good as season one. And I'm excited for what they do going forward with future seasons.
Yeah, we'll see what they go there.
Yeah. All right. You're number 6.
Okay, number 6. Okay, so my number 6, I have Agatha. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I think it's good.
No, I was gonna say I have it way higher, so I'm
I mean, that's
surprised it's that
fair.
low for you.
I think the only reason I don't have it higher is because I was watching another show we'll talk about as it was also happening. So it
Okay,
kind of
well that's
like
fair. Yeah.
I was kind of distracted. So things were happening, and I was kind of like, well, okay. And then and I think the beginning it took me a minute to kind of get it going. I think I definitely got more into it as it was going
Mhm.
further, but it took me a while to kind of. I don't know. I guess I kind of got distracted with other shows, but I do think it's really good. I do think it's done very well. Catherine Hahn, so she does really well. Aubrey Plaza just being in it makes a lot of sense,
Oh
and it
yes.
just like, dude, she's playing. She's like, I was born to play this role. Like, that one makes sense. Like, yeah,
Yes.
like it's just you're being evil. There's a lot of. I mean, the other characters, I don't hate. They're kind of just they have moments I like, but they're kind of
Mhm.
just
I really like them
also
as a
there
collective. I think
a
the coven as
lot
a
of the time.
whole. I
Yes.
think they like the way they interact, the way they talk. Just I think overall as a unit, they're very good. Individually, I like them as well, but like especially as a unit, I really like them.
The Coven, yeah, works a lot better. I mean, and two, I think what works too is just kind of like, the mystery is very good and the mystery,
Mm.
but it's also like something's up, but you're also like, okay, what is it? And who knows and who doesn't? And like, and there's good humor, like they
Mm.
do with the different eras when they go like the different like musical thing, like musical and like it's so wonderfully weird, but it kind of works.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
I I adore this show a lot. Like I said, I have it way higher, but like I think the most fascinating thing about the show to me is it, it was kind of like pitched as a sequel to WandaVision.
right.
And the way the show starts, it starts like a WandaVision episode would you know, with essentially Agatha starring in a parody of like one of those crime drama shows. And then, as an episode goes, she breaks out of it, and then like things in the episode, like in the episode of the show she was in, like kind of are reflected in the real world. Like the yellow tape that Herb was behind references the yellow plants he was standing behind in his
Hmm.
garden. Um, the things around her house match up with things that like I really like how they kind of like took her expectations of what a WandaVision sequel show would be, still kind of did that, but then with future episodes
Completely,
did their own thing with it completely.
yeah,
I adored
completely
that.
dropped it and was just like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, yeah, and they still kind of kept that same vibe of like, oh, here's like a Desperate Housewives, here's them in a '80s band for some reason, which I appreciate. Like here's here's them dressing up as like other classic witches. Like they still each episode had their own spin on it, and still like did their own thing, similar to WandaVision, but it's their own witchy spin, and I really really liked that. Yeah, and yeah, I like how the reveal of everything that was going on was like, especially on second viewing, it just feels very natural. But in the moment, you don't even really know to look for certain things. But now that I've seen it,
Right.
oh, that is what's happening. Like especially like the reveal of Aubrey Plaza's character. Like everything she says is so deliberately telling the audience, "Yeah, I am this character."
But it's also like that might just be something you would say,
Yeah,
like
she's just a crazy
at the
witch,
time.
whatever. But
Right.
yeah,
Like, oh, she's evil. Like that
yeah,
checks out. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's on me.
and
I should have known
yeah, and
that.
it's it shouldn't be this way. Movies should just be created this way, but it's so cool how they actually built the entire Witches Road like as an actual set. Very minimal green screen was used for the show, which is surprising. Um, like every time they like see off in the distance, like a house that they need to go to next, that's a painting that's on a wall. All the
Right.
trees, all the fog, like everything is an actual set to the point where when when Death like left the road or she like tore a hole in the wall and stepped through it, like she actually like ripped a hole in the set and walked out. Like that's so that's fascinating because like once you find out what the road actually is and what it
It
means,
makes
like
total sense.
yeah. But also, it was fun to actually use the set
She just
design
like
to your advantage. It's like I'm leaving. This place isn't real. I'm
it's
leaving.
like, well, we only have one take, so don't mess it up.
Yeah, it it's a good show, but I do agree the other show that you're watching I personally like more. But we'll get to both of those later.
Yeah. Oh, is it
Okay.
mine? Oh, yeah, it's mine. Okay, so this is where I had my adventure with Superman. Which now you're looking at it, maybe I could have switched them, but it's also like I don't. I guess I don't. I just. I love Superman. It's a problem. It's just. I like it a lot. I really like how they write the characters, especially the main characters in this show. Like it doesn't feel like even in moments where they kind of say, "Oh, this character is doing the generic thing," yes, but he handles it very much how this character would, so it kind of still feels kind of fresh one way to handle it. I like how there's good, we pick up from the last season. Pretty much, everything's about the same. The things are going well. Jimmy's rich, and then like you see,
Yeah,
like, oh, I see we have a clicker and it's going down. This is not going to end well for Jimmy.
that's
And
such a
of
good running
course,
gag.
like it doesn't, but in a way that okay, that's justifiable. You got to go save your friend. But also, it probably would have been funny if it had gone like to negative or something. That would have been even funnier. He's like, "Oh, we're going into debt." But yeah, I think that was really cool. I really like the inclusion of Kara. I think they do a good job of showing someone who's granted she adapts to Earth way too quickly, but when you only have a handful of episodes, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Hmm.
I do think the whole like, oh, Brainiac, I like how like my father, you think it's gonna be Zod, and then it's like, oh
Yes.
no, it's just Brainiac. And you're like, oh,
Hmm.
somehow that's a relief, but also worse. And you're just
Yeah.
kind of like, oh dear, like how do we deal? Which clearly, I really like how that, Zod or no, okay, now I'm saying it, how Brainiac just is straight up evil. There's not like, oh, I'm trying to no, I was lying to her. I'm a
Hmm.
monster. Goodbye. Like
I'm the
it's just
worst.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm the worst. I'm gonna take your body now. Good luck. And like it does for a while, and you're just like, oh, well, that's not good.
Hmm.
And and I think I really do. I do wish they did it. I know they're kind of playing the long game with the whole Lex Luthor thing, but it's starting to get kind of like, all right, are we gonna do this or not?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Because we're going on season 3, and A, he still has hair, and B, like he's not, he's not there
Mm.
yet. So I'm hoping that happens soon. I'm just kind of and I just kind of need that other where I was for Superman. I also do think, although I do think it was too early to get Supergirl, I feel like they could find a way to kind of make it work. Either, she like is with them for a while, then goes somewhere else, maybe to like,
Mm.
restore those other planets or something. I don't know, but it just kind of feels kind of like wow, we just got Superman. Now we just got another super Kryptonian. So like, well, it's a
Yeah.
bit much, but but I do like how the characters. I do like how they interact well. They feel like real friends for the most part. Like it's like, hey, we just went through this life altering thing. Let's like, you know, talk about stuff more. you
Yeah.
know, it's not like with other shows where it's like, hey, remember in this season when we promised never do that? Let's just not do that again this season. It's kind of like all right, guys, we got to be better than that. And for the most part, they do. There are still some missteps, but the world's on fire, so I'll forgive for
Mhm.
now. But overall, I think it was really good. I'm excited to see where they go with it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I just really like the show. It's very
absolutely.
lighthearted Superman.
Mm. And that was your number five?
Yes.
Okay, so actually, we skipped my number five, which is fine. I think it might actually roll better this way. So my number five is Creature Commandos.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's my 4, so that works.
Cool. So yeah, the whole season isn't out yet, so I'm just judging it based on what came out in
Yeah.
2024. But I am digging this show. I DC has been on a tear with shows about characters that are clearly very bad people, but you still want to root for them. And
Yeah.
like, yeah. Although at the same time, this show somehow made me feel bad about a guy who's also a weasel man. Like, turns out he's actually not a bad person. He's just a confused weasel.
But you're still like, oh, but you're also like, ah. Like, yeah. I mean, the characters are extreme. Like, I mean, from the first episode, you're like 2 minutes in, and you're like, I like this group. You got I mean, you just got like, oh yeah, they're great. They just like, yeah, they're the worst, but also they're not that bad. It's
Mhm.
kind of works. And then
Yeah.
I mean, the writing is really funny. Like I laugh a
Mm,
lot watching this show.
yeah.
And I mean, it is a bit raunchy in some parts, and
Yeah.
especially at the beginning, but it definitely like it's also a good show too. It's not just a bunch of like, dirty jokes. It's actually really well written and really funny.
Mm.
And I like again, you like the characters, their motivations make sense. You do want to see them win, even though they're like the worst, but you're also like, yeah, but they're my worst kind of deal.
Yeah, I really like Dr. Phosphorus. Um, all the jokes about like whether or not he's smiling when he just looks like that is very fun. Um, like almost every other character, at least so far, you could see an argument for them actually not being that bad. Like, yeah, GI Robot was programmed exclusively to kill Nazis. You know, maybe he's a little violent, but like for a good cause.
Yeah.
She doesn't even want to be there. The bride, she was brought into this world under horrible circumstances. The Weasel actually isn't all that evil. Um, but Dr. Phosphorus is straight up a villain, and I love that. He's so ruthless, just does not, hesitate to shove his hand through somebody or just burn somebody to a crisp. Like, it's just very
Yeah.
satisfying to watch.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where you can't even be like, "Why would you do that?" You're like, "Oh, right, the show."
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just like the premise. Oh, yes, no. So you kind of that, and it is kind of that good Nick. But then even the ones who aren't like inherently evil still go out of their way to do some messed up stuff every now and again. So it's totally like it's
Mhm.
on brand while we were doing well. And again, I think it really tells a testament to the writing because no one's heard of these characters. You know what I mean? These guys are a bunch of whoever characters, but it's
Mhm.
like if written well, all of a sudden we're 5 episodes in, and I'm like, what's gonna happen? And, who's gonna
Yeah.
die? Who's not gonna die? Like, it's like you're very invested in characters that a month
Mhm.
ago didn't know existed.
Yeah. To the point where, like, I forgot that this is basically a Suicide Squad situation. So
Yeah,
yeah, both of these characters are probably going to get wasted at some point. So like
absolutely.
when GI Robot got destroyed, I'm like, oh, they'll build him, but no, they're not going to build him back because this is Suicide Squad. He's out of the show.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but I'm sad about that because I
It's
liked
like
him a lot.
I love when he would make everything about like it was so stupid, but it was just really funny because he kept saying
I
it.
do not enjoy looking at wastelands not full of Nazis. Like, come on.
I have been waiting for a friend to kill Nazis with me for 47 years and this many seconds. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Oh man, good times, good times. But no, really well done. It's honestly, it's a testament to like, that I mean, James Gunn knows what he's doing, man. I don't. I mean, you gotta give him props because
Yeah.
again, like, I mean, never even, I mean, this would never have even crossed my mind as anything. And here we are, like, this is one of the best things I've seen. It's not even out yet. It's this high on the list. It's not even
Yeah.
done.
Like
So
unless they just absolutely fumble from now on, like it's
it's pretty great.
pretty great. Yeah.
It's probably going to be on my 20 things, the best things of 2025 list.
Honestly, if I remember that it didn't like fully come out
Maybe.
last year, then yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they technically, like, this half or however
Yeah.
many episodes we have left
There's
came
three
out this
left.
year.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So my number 4 is Marvel Rivals.
okay.
Um, I, me and my brother have been like theory crafting not this game, but games similar to this for years now. Ever since Overwatch came out, we've been like, oh, like if there was a Nintendo crossover kind of thing with Overwatch mechanics, like, what would each character do? Like a Transformers type thing, what would each character do? Like I I am all in for hero shooters that are in this vein. Like I think Overwatch had like ever since it came out, it obviously has been like the peak of this kind of game. However, Overwatch 2 for the years it's been out just never really grabbed me in the same way that Overwatch historically had. Like back in college, Overwatch was my game. Like whenever I had the opportunity, I would play that game for hours at a time. Overwatch 2 just never it had just changed a little too much since Overwatch 1. I think personally in negative ways, so that I just never really wanted to go back to it to the point where I had more fun theory crafting other better games. So then when this game came out, it was announced about earlier last year, and I was like, oh, best case scenario, it'll scratch that Overwatch itch for a little bit, but with it being developed by NetEase, who only ever really makes mobile games, I don't really know how good it'll actually be. And yeah, it's very good. Like every character feels very unique. Like I said earlier, the ability to like do those combo attacks and combo abilities is just very unique, very like it sets it apart from other ones in the genre. I do think the movement speed in general could be up just a little bit. Um, Dying it feels like a little bit more of a annoyance than it does in other hero shooters, but it's fine. Um, yeah, I love the variety and the different, not just in like what the characters do, but just the different characters themselves. Like we have obviously your staples like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Spider Man, whatever, but we have a bunch of you know people that no one's ever heard of, like Jeff the Shark, Cloak and Dagger, even like it's not a Iron Fist that isn't Danny Rand, and like various characters can like comment about uh, like depending on like who's on your team, they'll have like different voice lines with each other, and clearly the writers of those know the lore of these characters very well, and it's a little bit of a cliche, but I really do feel like it's a love letter to to hardcore Marvel comics fans, and I dig it.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty, it's one of those things too that, like, it essentially, a Marvel specific game is basically kind of now the new mainstream for just that, not just like a hero game, but just in general, this entire genre, which is really big right now, just to be like, yeah, we're doing this now. And that's
Yes,
huge.
yeah, I do think as good as the maps and modes they have now are, I do kind of hope they eventually include more modes. Obviously, we'll get more maps eventually, but some kind of PvP mode that's like like a free for all deathmatch type thing, um, like a capture the flag or just other modes like that, because the like the move the payload and then the capture the point, those are fine. I personally prefer capture the point modes. But the I still want a little more variety with with games like this. And I know there have been like leaks coming out that there are going to be other modes coming, but I think once those modes are fully out, it'll be even better. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's a really good game. Everybody's talking about it. It's really, it's like it's taken over by storm and pretty quickly. So hopefully it
Mm-hmm.
continues to improve. They'll add some more characters. I know they're missing. It feels like there's not as many Marvel villains as you'd probably want,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's still time to add plenty of characters. So
Yeah.
we'll see where they go from
Yeah.
there.
There's rumors that all of the Fantastic Four are coming. There's rumors of Ultron. There's rumors of
Ooh,
Blade and other, even a couple of
yeah,
other more obscure characters. Like, I'm
yeah.
all for
Blade
it.
definitely feels like a character that should be in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. Same like Daredevil and Ghost Rider. I think those are two
Mm.
other staples that should be here at some point. But yeah, it's good. Okay. That was your number. Wait, my number four. What's your number? Your four was
My
Creature
four,
Commandos?
what? Yeah, Creature Commando. So now I'm on three.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so my three, I got X-Men 97
Right.
because that is. Have you seen this, man?
I've seen a couple of clips and stuff, but not the actual thing.
Man, stop what you're doing. Like, no, I'm just kidding. No, it's really good, man. It's one of those like I love it a lot because like my brother's a huge X-Men guy. Like it's his whole thing. Like he
Hmm.
loves it. He's loved it forever. And this show is just like I don't. It's like it's one of the shows where I'm like, oh, that's so cool every like 5 seconds.
Yes.
Like
From the
every
clips I've
character
seen,
gets
there's some really
yeah.
cool stuff that goes on.
So but like I thought like, oh, only that scene's gonna be like that. Nah, like every other scene's like that. You're like, oh, that's sick. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, that's so smart. I never would have thought to use the powers like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's so many like cool things like that shouldn't work, but I'm cool with it. Go. Like it's really good. I also like how it's not just it's not just a bunch of action figures punching each other. There's also really good themes with the story. I really like how things are handled with like all this there. They bring in some other characters you don't expect. I mean, there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of which I would like. The cameos are crazy. I was not like
Mm-hmm.
I was told the cameos were wild. I did not believe it, and then I was like, I was wrong. The cameos are wild. So like, very exciting. Like just it's just really good, dude. Like I thought it was gonna be good. The original show is really good. You don't, I mean, it's one of those things where too they kind of know like the original show came out like 30 years ago, so like
Yeah.
if you don't, if you're not immediately on the most recent episode, we'll kind of help you out, but it's like very. It's for everybody, so I really enjoy it a lot. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the ways that X-Men can kind of get back into the mainstream because I feel like lately it's kind of been like, with the X Men movies, it can kind of, and like they got a little better, then it got a lot worse, and then, but so we're kind of,
Yeah.
I feel like Marvel is thriving, but parts of Marvel have just kind of been forgotten about, like
Mm-hmm.
the Fantastic Four, which hopefully with this movie coming soon will be
Yep.
rectified. But then again, we said it the last couple of times, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like this really does X-Men really good justice. I really especially love how like I Cyclops has always been my favorite X-Men
Mm.
because I don't one, I always like the leader characters, but also
Yeah.
too like just like he's one of the best examples of why Charles Xavier, like the whole X-Men thing works. Because if
Mm.
you're a kid with bazooka's eyeballs, no anything can help you
Yeah.
basically. So and then other people with powers like that, it just really shows how influential it's like not only can you change the world for other people to accept it, but also I mean change the psychology of the people because it's like hey man, like you're not a complete monster in a waste of space. You're actually an amazing person, and I want to
Mhm.
show you how you can do that. And I think that's just really good for in general, but also I think it
Yeah.
really works in this sense. And and of course Magneto's just Magneto, so that's always
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So my number three is Agatha All Along.
Mm.
Yeah, I really love this show. I love just the atmosphere, of the whole thing. Like I said before, just every single character I really really liked. Obviously, some more than others, but I didn't think there was any bad characters. Um, I loved the just how they did the various reveals, the action sequences that were there were very very good. Um, the songs that were there were also very very good. The one kind of I think major thing that I wish the show did that I think was missing was I wish that how Agatha got the Darkhold was showcased in any capacity because there were like a couple of different characters were kind of like giving uh Wiccan these like tales about how bad Agatha was. One of them saying that she literally traded her son for the Darkhold, but that
Mhm.
didn't happen. So I'm kind of wondering like how and when she got it, and like did she just find it? Did she have to actually steal it from the from the sorcerer's library? Like I since that was the one of the only things we knew about her coming off of WandaVision, I kind of wish that we had that more explained, but it's not a huge deal. It's just definitely one of the questions I had after after finishing the show. But the show that we actually got, everything that was there, I thought was done very well.
Mhm. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was done really good. And also too, I think it does a really good job adding things in. Like, okay, where do we go from? You ask a lot of questions of where do we go from here now, and I
Mm.
always think that's whenever you have a show like this, I always think that's one of the three most important things. Kind of like, is it done well? Does it make sense? And most importantly, okay, but like, what was the point of this? What does this do? And now seeing how this goes, like, yeah, okay, this character's been this was that the whole time. Okay, cinema, go. Like,
Mm.
yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Number two.
Number two for me is Deadpool and Wolverine.
Okay, I have a feeling our number two and one are the same, so cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Deadpool and Wolverine,
yeah.
yeah.
But did you also have Madam Web as your number?
Well, how did you know?
So it's like it wasn't. It's like it wasn't. Oh god, what is it? Craven the
Craven the
Hunter that
Hunter. What was it? The
statistically
Joker?
no one
Dutiful,
saw.
whatever. Like,
But no, yeah, but no. Yeah, this movie. As soon as this movie was announced, you knew it was going to be a lot of fun. It was exactly
mm-hmm.
a lot of fun and was way more like it did everything you thought it would do, but did a lot of things you didn't. Because again, this movie
Mm.
kind of started as just like a weird, just it's just a regular stupid Deadpool movie with Wolverine now. But now it's like, oh no, we're doing like an homage to just like the Fox universe and like
Yep.
all these movies that even the ones that suck, we're gonna,
Especially the
you
ones that
know,
suck.
especially the ones that suck. We're gonna make sure you never forget them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it does a really good job of that. I mean, like again, it's one of those movies where the story doesn't matter. It's just an excuse to have Ryan Reynolds say really funny stuff, make meta jokes, and
Mm.
be very violent. We have Hugh Jackman back, which is always a win, especially with the comic accurate costume. So
Yeah.
boom. Just yeah, I mean it's done really well. It's really good acting. The choreography for all the fights is very good, also.
Yeah.
Very underrated.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean every cameo ever is in this movie. I think that's great. And I think they did a really good job of just like not revealing anything at all. It was very like I mean, obviously, like I know with like the last trailer, I know they showed X-23, which I was like, oh, why'd you reveal that? But I think I remember you and me both saying like, if they were comfortable just throwing that in the
Mm-hmm.
trailer, there's some deep nuggets in this bad boy. And man,
Yeah.
I expected a lot of things. I did not expect the Wesley Snipes.
Channing Tatum's
Like
Gambit, that was
that was
crazy.
so great because again, it was like, what? No, yeah, with the costume that makes
Mm.
like just the meme worthy voice just everybody's just here because
Mhm.
why not? Like, just it's
Yeah.
just fun. It's a lot of like it seems like they just put out a call and like, hey, if you were in any of these movies and you want to be in this movie, let us know
Mhm.
and then we'll make it work. And a lot of people picked up the phone. So it's
Yeah.
done really well, really funny. Just I loved it. It was exactly what you would expect in a third Deadpool movie, and a lot more of just an homage as well to the Fox universe. I think it's done really good. It's like I don't think I don't know if I don't think it's my favorite Deadpool. I'm not sure. It's so because it feels different from the first two, so it's kind of
Yeah.
hard because like I feel like if it is, that's a cop out. But if it isn't, then it's like, how good is it? It's like it is really good. I don't know if it's my favorite because it doesn't feel like just a Deadpool movie. It feels like its own thing.
Yeah. Mm, it's almost like trying to say, well, not even. Hmm. Yeah, it's hard because I really like Deadpool 2 a lot. Obviously, Deadpool 1 is also really, really good. I just personally like Deadpool 2 a little more. This is a very different kind of movie, so it's hard to directly compare them. So
Mm.
but also all three are very good. So it doesn't, it's one of the good ones of the three, and they're all good. So um, it's easily, I think, at least one of my favorite like X-Men adjacent movies. It's
Yeah.
way up there for X-Men adjacent stuff.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. I mean, it does really well. It fits in this universe, a lot of the character. And also too, just like I think it does a great job of not taking itself too seriously, but
Mm-hmm.
also, it does a lot. A lot
Yeah.
happens in those movies. And it kind of, it doesn't necessarily set anything up per se, but it's more just like, we're not saying this is the last Deadpool movie, but if it is, it makes a lot of sense if it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Yeah. I think Deadpool and Hugh Jackman will come back for Secret Wars, but I don't
Mm,
know if we'll get a Deadpool Wolverine 2. I don't really know if I want that. I think that would kind of cheapen what happened in that movie. But those characters could still at least come back in some capacity. But I don't want the joke of them saying that we're gonna Disney's gonna use you until you're 90. I don't want that to happen. I do hope Secret Wars is the end for all of that era of characters, and then for X Men, every X Men is brand new.
mm.
Yeah, but yeah, it is a very different movie than the other Deadpool's, but it still has the a very kind of similar soundtrack with a bunch of popular and classic songs and stuff that match with the scenes they're in. Um, you know, Pretty similar humor and just top tier action like those movies. So it's good. Yeah, it's very very good.
Yeah, no, it's done really well. You can really tell that, like, yes, this one was under Marvel. This was under like Disney's Marvel, and it was not, they were like, hey, we want to still do right by this, but maybe not that. And from what we heard, there's a lot of back and forth with Ryan Reynolds and like, hey, we really want this joke, we really want this reference or
Mm.
whatever. And it definitely seemed to pay off because again, the movie felt very much, I guess, vibe wise on pace with the other ones. It didn't feel like this one was definitely the toned down version because it was plenty
Mm.
violent and plenty
Oh, yeah.
all the out of pocket jokes. So
Mm.
still worked a lot well. So yeah, really just gone with Brian Reynolds has done this all three of these projects, honestly. So really
Yeah.
just great entertainment and really done well by the character and characters that got a lot of light because of this series.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so before we get to our number one, I just want to go over a couple of honorable mentions. I don't know if you saw. Have you seen any of the Suicide Squad isekai?
I did not. I kind of honestly kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, it's on Max. It's an anime version of the Suicide Squad where
Hmm.
Amanda Waller sends them to a fantasy world, so it's literally that's Suicide Squad. Isekai, these characters
Yeah.
just go like
Yeah.
essentially have to, kind of mild spoilers, has to have to go to a world where that fantasy world is essentially like taken over by another squad that was sent there previously, so they have to kind of deal with eventually deal with another squad. I think Enchantress is like kind of the I haven't
That's
watched all of it,
awesome.
but I think Enchantress is like the final bad guy of it all. Yeah, the squad they create is very very fun. Peacemaker and Clayface I think are very it's very fun to watch with the others. Um, uh, did you watch any of the Kite Man show?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I I haven't seen any of it yet. I'll get around to it eventually. But the trailers and stuff looked like
Yeah,
you know
it's pretty much a
good.
Harley Quinn show from Kite Man's perspective.
Okay.
Actually, kind of funny parts to it in that extent too. But
Mm,
it's done. I mean, the jokes land pretty well. Most of the same characters are in it in the background at least, so it's pretty. It's still on the same par. And it's pretty solid.
okay. Um, Echo that came out
Yeah.
earlier this year, dropped all at the same time, which is an interesting choice for a Disney Plus show to do that. And I think it like imagine okay, so you know how there's one episode either started or sometimes towards some point during the first half, Daredevil showed up.
Hmm.
I feel like if if we had a week to week, that episode would help gain traction for the rest of the episodes to follow. But because it's
Agreed.
all dropped at one time, people talked about that part for like a weekend and then didn't.
And then yeah, it's
That
like
was it.
the rest of the show was like yeah, and then the rest of the show was like whatever, and like that was it. And like again, that's why I think, especially with these shorter shows, like
Five
I feel like
episodes,
if your
like
show's like
come on.
20 plus episodes, sure, but like if it's like 8, 6, less than 10,
Mm,
week to week definitely feels like the right thing to do.
yeah, it's only a month and a half tops. Like it's or 2 months
Right.
top of his 8 episodes. Like it's not. If anything, it helps people that do like it keep Disney Plus for longer. So I don't really see
Yeah.
why dropping it all at once is, especially for this show. It's like they weren't confident about it, so they just threw it out there, and like especially with this being another like big moment for Kingpin to show back up. Like I don't know, I feel like you kind of want to highlight that, but oh well.
Yeah, like kind of. I mean, I don't know. The show kind of made Kingpin like he was, he's a big deal, but it also kind of like, it kind of is, kind of isn't. Like it felt very watered down,
Yeah, yeah. Oh
but
well.
they'll do okay.
Were there
And
any honorable mentions that you have?
I had Echo as an honorable mention. I also put My Hero Academia season. So I know that's not a comic book movie; it's more of an anime, but it's
Superheroes.
superheroes in it. I
Yeah.
assumed you hadn't seen it, so I didn't want to talk about it too
No.
much. But no, but very,
Mm,
I love. I mean, I love that show. It's
yeah.
great, and like a lot of good characters.
Yeah. Kind of in a similar vein, I think I talked to you about this before. There's this show on Max called The Franchise that's about a movie studio like trying to
Mm-hmm.
make essentially a Marvel movie set in this bigger superhero universe. Is not based on any comic or anything. It's completely made up characters. It's but you can clearly tell that a lot of people who worked on the show also worked on big budget Marvel or DC shows because a lot of the jokes they made um, seem to only really make sense if you know how like what happens behind the scenes of those superhero shows. A lot of jokes about like this movie like getting rearranged in the schedule of of the greater universe as then because like at first it was like, oh, you're just gonna like be like the winter release of next year, so you got time to finish it. Whereas like the big tentpole movie, for the summer, we're more focused on that, so we're not really gonna baby you. And then the very last thing that happened in the show is like, oh, we're announcing that that this movie is going to be our next summer blockbuster. It's like, so we're going to double your production budget and get back to work. It's like, but we. And by that point, the director was done. The stage manager was like had a following out with like half the cast. Like every single person didn't want to be doing it anymore. Um, they there was a moment where they were doing like this big stunt where they were in another country and they were allowed to like blow up this like kind of old bridge. Um, but they ended up blowing up the wrong bridge. And like I feel like that's a lot of things that happen in this movie. Like they tickle some part of my brain. It's like I feel like I remember some story happening like that, where like something happened on production where they blew up something that they shouldn't have, or like damaged some artifact or something. Um, but yeah, like as someone who like appreciates Marvel movies and also has over time been dialed into a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that goes on in those kind of movies. It's like there was a whole arc about this one like lady character who originally had like a 2 minute cameo in the movie. Like the studio had said, "Oh, we need to like make her character stronger and like do a feminism." He literally said that we need you to do a feminism. It's like okay, so they like make her infinitely stronger and like give her much more to do, even though the actress was only supposed to be on set for like an hour and she like had other commitments she had to cancel to do this. And like I was like, yeah, that feels right.
It's one. I feel like it's definitely one of those things. Like anyone who's worked on a movie is like it's the greatest thing ever. But even if you haven't, you still kind of realize like that's funny.
Yeah, yeah, it's I would recommend it at some point.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was running at the same time as the other show we're going to mention in just a moment, so I think it got kind of buried a little bit by another bigger superhero thing. It's like not in the same vein that it's kind of criticized, but it's kind of funny that like HBO produced this at the same time as one of their other tentpole superhero things.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I like at the on the one hand, you can definitely watch multiple things at the same time, but at the other hand, it's kind of like it feels like you're sabotaging your own show by like plays teeing up competition like right at the same time. It's kind of
Yeah.
like maybe if you spread that out, you would just have good shows all year, but it's like, nah, let's not do that. That'd be
Oh.
rational. That'd be logical.
Anyway, the Penguin, go.
The Penguin is awesome. The
Amazing.
Penguin's one of those shows that you are, as soon as you start watching, you are in this world. You are not a
Mm,
bystander. You're in it. Like when Oz is getting chased, you're getting chased too. Like you're like, oh
yeah.
crap, we gotta go, man. Like, like it's very good at just immediately immersing you into this gritty, dark, like not just not a good place to live, Gotham City. It's the scums and the scummier. Everybody is killing everybody. Like no, literally no one is safe. The only
Mm,
character you're like the Penguin probably makes it out because he's the
probably.
Penguin. Everyone else is 1,000% fair game, and it literally, yeah, it as expected. Everybody else basically doesn't make it out, which is crazy. It's done very well. I love how it's shot. Just like I mean, the way they do it, and that reads very much is like, hey, this movie we did, this is exactly the same kind of thing we're doing with the show. I do like how I do like how it is fully from the perception of the street level, the Penguin and others on
Oh
his
yeah.
level. I know I've said before, I kind of wish there was a little more Batman in the background. I mean, I
Hmm.
understand obviously in the end they have the whole like bat signal thing, but it's like I guess for me, if in maybe one part of an episode or two, if Batman had to like, when they were like really getting big in the drug operation, if like Batman shut them down or something, or there was some kind of just again, you don't have to really see Batman that much. It's more just like, hey, what happened to those guys? And it's like the bat got him. You're like, what? And then you just see on the news like a guy,
Hmm.
guys tied up to the ceiling or something.
Yeah.
and you're
I
just
think
kind
you
of like,
don't even
oh
need to
dang.
go that far. I think the fact that after the first episode, I don't think Batman was even mentioned by name the entire
That's what I'm
show.
saying. That's what I'm
Like at
saying. You kind of
no point, no one ever was like looking over their shoulder or mentioned, what if the Batman gets us or or anything. He's not present in this Gotham centric show.
yeah, like
Period is a little weird.
yeah, it almost felt like it was an episode of like that Gotham show, like before
Mm,
Batman showed up.
yeah,
'Cause it felt like a prequel, even though it's set after the movie.
yeah. But yeah, that's really the only big flaw I
Yeah,
have
that's
with it,
the
and it's
only
barely a flaw.
nitpick. Yeah, and again, it's the Penguin show, so it's like you don't. I mean, this doesn't have to feature Batman or anything. It was kind of just mentioned, but again, it's done really well. The acting is just superb. I mean, you believe every single like this is real. Like really big shout outs. Obviously the title character steals the show, but also Sophia is an
Mhm.
excellent antagonist. Like you don't like she does this great thing of you don't know what she's thinking and you're not even in it. Like you know what I mean? Like it's not
Mhm.
it's not real and you're still like I this chick scares me. I don't know what she's thinking,
Yeah,
what she's gonna do, who she's gonna like who she's gonna kill, like what's going
yeah,
on, but
yeah.
you realize
Because like especially after that episode completely set in Arkham, like you get it, you understand completely why she like it's what she does is horrible. She does she kills like 20 people, but you understand from her perspective why she'd be doing it. She was completely framed for something that she did not do. Had to take the fall for her dad, and you know, she found out that every single person in her family, even cousins that she, thought she had, fully mutual respect for, you know, were bad people. So they went
yeah.
all in on it. And I really liked after the mass execution, she kept that one uncle character alive or whatever he was alive just long enough to you know, find out where her dad's war chest was and then killed him in front of the rest of the crew just to set an example. Like that was so good.
So brutal how he like I love that too because in my head I was like don't like you don't need him. Why is he like I was thinking like why is he still alive? He got everything. What do you need? And then she like just casually shoots
The
him,
first time he was like,
brains
"Now
start
wait a minute, let's talk about." No,
no, no,
I just
Sophia, you can't just
yeah, I
brains on the
can.
table. Everyone's just like, well, dang. Like, it's just kind of like I think that was really well done because again, you kind of thought for a second, oh, she is gonna have him kind of as an advisor for some reason, and like, no,
No,
that was all part of the plan.
yeah.
Apparently, like she
And
probably
then
was
after
gonna do
that,
that
all the
anyway.
other guys were like, "Why would we follow you? Here's $10 million. You'll split amongst yourselves. You take it." It's like, "Yep, we're working for you."
We were like, you know what? I like you.
Yeah.
Like, no, but again, it's cool because again, at the end of the day, I'm like, you're all scum. We all want the same thing. We're scum.
Mhm.
We want money. That's all we do. Like,
Yeah.
we don't have to pretend there's any honor. We don't have to, and I think that's what I really like. Like, she doesn't like, she breaks down all the BS with like, oh, I've been working for this family, bro. Everybody's just trying to get paid. Like
Yeah.
we're all gangsters, we're all thugs, we're all the worst of the worst. Everyone just wants to get paid. As long as we get paid, I don't care what happens. I don't care if I have to kill anybody.
Hmm.
And I love
Yeah.
like that. I also love that Oz is 1000% playing every person he's
Yes.
talking to every second he's on. Like it's literally
Mm.
hilarious how like, oh my
His
gosh,
allegiance
wait,
is
cop.
switched on a dime.
Like,
Like,
Sal, you gotta help me, man. I'm looking for you, man. I'm trying to get Sophia. Sophia, you don't believe this guy. I mean, listen. Who are you gonna? I've been working with you. I've been doing this the whole time. Like the man, like he is gonna go down with the shit. Like he is like
mhm.
deny until the cows come home. Like it's so, and it's like, and it's so funny because like it stops working but he keeps doing it and like he just by some other miracle or some other reason he gets out of it
Yep.
and it's just like wow like there were so many times where I was like oh he's not going to get out of this he's dead and then at the last possible second he just like squeezes out, or he snakes. He plants the knife on the other guy, or they just happen to be there. Like it was just like I was like, he's done. He's not gonna make it out. They got you red-handed. Nope, he made it
Mm-hmm.
somehow.
Yeah. And I adored Clancy Brown as Maroni. I almost kind of it in a way almost feels appropriately unsatisfying how he ended up just dying to a heart attack.
Yes,
Yet Penguin still took credit for it.
yes.
Like
Like
I
that's
beat you.
literally
Don't
like
life like
so in
time took him out. What are you
character.
talking about?
It's so in character. It's so in like again, Penguins wins half the time are just random luck. But you would think the way he like says it with his chest and like pounds it like I heard this, I did. I'm like, bro, you got so lucky.
Uh,
You should be dead like 3 episodes ago.
I saw some people say the way it was framed, it looked like one of those game over screens from an Arkham game. Like even if it's the Penguin Goon that killed him, I got you this time,
Yeah.
Batman. Like,
Basically, yeah, you know what I mean? But I mean, again, and again, like you're watching the show, and unlike what you kind of said about Creature Commandos, at no point do I feel any sympathy for Oz ever.
nope.
Because I mean, from the jump, again, this entire thing happened because he felt disrespected and shot a guy.
Yes. And then he
100%.
didn't
Like
feel
this
remorse. The emotion he was feeling was, oh
crap.
no, now I got to deal with all this other stuff. It was like I didn't feel bad for that. Now it's now
No,
I got to do more work.
no, as I casually drag the body outside, I'm not like, oh man, I killed a guy. I'm like, oh man, how am I going to deal with the repercussions of killing an important person? Like, oh, I
Yeah.
gotta find an alibi. I gotta do it. Like, and again, like, and throughout the show, he does not have any redeeming. You think, oh, maybe he's gonna be. No, he's the
No.
worst. Nope,
And
he's gonna burn people alive. Nope,
yeah.
he's gonna do that. Like that was
Any
super gangster. Loved it.
yes.
Also, but so evil.
Yes. Any possible like feelings of neutrality or like, oh,
Nope.
maybe there's some good in him out the window when he burned two
Nope.
people alive. Like, oh, that was
Just
good moment.
the worst. Just the absolute worst. The entire time. And you're like, oh well maybe through Vic you'll learn his good side. And then the longer the show goes on, you're like, no man, he's just a bad dude.
Yeah.
There's no like I mean even the backstory you try to like
Mm-hmm.
oh well maybe as a kid like he didn't no he just murdered his brothers. There's like no like
It didn't feel bad
accidentally.
about
I
it.
mean, like no, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like I mean, it's literally, and that's the thing. Like it's the show goes playing and it starts writing. It's like you think at some point when they explain it, like at some point you're gonna see, oh, he feels bad about this, or oh, he didn't mean to do that, or he was misunderstood. No, he's just the worst at every point. He was the worst as a kid. He was the worst at all. He's the worst now. Like he's just evil
Yes.
for some reason. He's just the word. He's just a bad dude. And I
Mm-hmm.
love it because, again, it's a villain show. We're not supposed to be like, oh, man, if only they saw things from his perspective. It's like, nah, kill him. He's the worst. Like, no,
Yeah.
he's a monster. He's worse than the other people.
And he's such a monster. He knows that killing Sophia isn't the worst thing that could happen to her. He knows the worst thing that could happen to her is killing every person she cares about, killing all of her connections, and then leaving her to the cops to go back to Arkham. Like that's so it's just so
So
good.
evil. Like this is what I'm talking about. Like that's like that took time. He thought about this. He's like, no, that's too easy. What would be worse than killing? No, back to Ark. Like
Yeah.
that's so evil. Like that's like it's like that. Like it's like the powerful girl. It's like that's the evilest thing I can imagine. Like that's so messed up. Because she's just in there now. Like she already went through one torment for that, and now she's gonna be in there for who knows how much longer if they
Mhm.
ever gets out. So
Yeah, but like at least now, like she has that doctor guy who wasn't Arkham. That he left. Now he's back at Arkham. Maybe he'll at least be able to kind of look out for her. Maybe.
yeah, I never understood their dynamic because it was kind of like I'm helping you, but not. the whole
Yeah,
time. And it was kind of just like, I don't know, like, it just felt kind of, I mean, obviously there's some weird stuff in there too, but it was just kind of
yeah,
like, all right, like, that's something.
yeah. I mean, even weirder is Penguin's relationship with his mom.
Oh my
That
God.
was bizarre.
So bizarre. But like, again, of all the things, this mom is like, yeah, my mom that low key despises me, but also has some super bad dementia, but also, I'm just kind of like, man, like your mom, but like you have no problem like killing your brothers to spend more time with your mom is like and again, they didn't seem like bad, bro. Like that was the
No.
thing. Like they weren't like, they didn't really bully him, which they easily could have, because
Yeah.
I mean, like, with this whole thing. So it's like they were just kind of like regular brothers trying to keep him out of trouble. Like again, like how the flashback it was set up, like you were like, oh, they're gonna find he's gonna get in trouble, or oh, he's gonna like, the brothers are gonna be a bad influence, get him into this, or no, like no, they had nothing to do. They were like, no, we don't want you to be part of it. And then like he just hates them for
Yep.
no reason.
Yep. They pulled one prank on him. Like, I can't climb down there, and then he got mad and made them drown. Like, that's okay. Like, that's just what brothers do, but he not anymore.
So and that scene was crazy too, because he just kind
Yeah.
of knew what was happening. He was just kind of like,
One thing about the show I really like, it's kind of a meme for live action superhero things to be like, oh, the main character has to like earn their costume. They have to go through all of these trials to finally eventually get to their final costume. And like that kind of thing did happen with the penguin, but it I think it was done so naturally. I think it worked here. Where like by the end of the show, he was in the suit with the hat. I do wish he had a cane. I think, especially with the limp, I think the cane would kind of complete the look. But knowing from his backstory that he watched a lot of like old timey shows where they dressed
mm,
like that, and he had aspirations to be the mayor, and the mayor dresses like that. And I think now that he's basically the kingpin of crime now, he has to dress the part, and I dig that.
yeah, that was really cool. He gets to the end, you're like, oh man. Yeah, I do see a distinct lack of umbrellas, but I'll allow
Yeah,
it.
there was a couple of umbrellas in the first episode, then no umbrellas after that. But yeah, it's whatever.
No, I mean it's fine. I mean, I don't expect them to actually like, get a helicopter umbrella and fly around in this universe.
He'd be cool if he
But
did, but yeah.
it would be cooler, a lot cooler if you did. But
Mhm.
again, it's one of those like it's still done very well. It's choreographed great. Every actor gave 110%. I want to talk about Vic also. I think Vic
Mm.
was a very good addition to the show. I originally was like, why is there this character here? But I think Vic's real reason for existing was kind of like to build up Oz
Mm.
and then immediately break it.
Yes.
Kind of like, no, he's human. He's a good person. Well, no, he's decidable. There's good in him. And then, no,
No.
nope, no. I'll get one of the biggest plot twists to me again was again you knew he was gonna make it out, but you're like, oh yeah, he's gonna like him and Vic are gonna be running this way, and then like, oh my no,
No.
why? It's so, and then it's like, because he's evil. Like you don't have
Yeah.
to like there's no real explanation. I'm just evil. Like
Yeah. You can't have anything even close to a moral compass. Like it wouldn't be good for him.
yeah, but because it's like it doesn't even make logical sense. It's like we still have your mom.
Yeah. He was in a coma,
Like
but
it
yes.
would have made more sense to me. It would have made more sense to kill her because it's like that actually was used against you like
Yeah.
earlier. Nick just was also like there. He didn't even do anything.
Yeah.
He's the
And
only
Vic,
reason you made it out. Like
yeah,
four
he
of
got him
those
out of so many
situations.
different situations.
Yes, and
Mm,
just so messed up, dude. Like, just
yeah.
could have at least let him go. Nah,
Nope.
nope. That's the thing. Like, you think they have this relationship, but really, it's like, Vic was right. He was a hostage the whole time. He was never really in there. He was just
Hmm.
used until he was no longer needed, and then, man, so messed up.
Yeah.
So messed up. It's
So,
evil. But
well,
now it's like,
mm,
no remorse. Penguin, you're a monster. But, like, that
mhm.
was the point the whole time.
Yep. What's even more messed up is we got to wait 3 years before we get to see what happens next.
I
I mean,
know.
in that time, we could get a Penguin season 2. That could.
I mean, can you imagine if we got 2 seasons of Penguin in between Batman movies?
I'd be cool with it.
I
We
know.
would.
I wouldn't
I
be
think.
against it.
I think something they could do is like, yeah, Robert Pattinson has other commitments, but I think you could bring him in for like one episode of a thing. Maybe
Yeah.
if you like one. So one of the questions people and concerns people have with the Batman season, the Batman 2 being 3 years away, is this is supposed to be a very early Batman, and the Penguin happened right after the Batman, and then with the Bat Signal, the Batman 2 is going to happen right after that. This Batman's going to be, 38 ish, which was apparently as old as Christian Bale was at the end of Dark Knight Rises. So, like, this year 2 or 3 Batman is the same age as, you know, crippled for 8 years and have one last hurrah Batman from Dark Knight Rises. So, like, you could have the Penguin show, you know, move things forward a little bit in the timeline, so that way when the Batman comes back, he's like, year 5 ish. That could at least help a little bit with that, maybe. I don't know if they're
Maybe. I
gonna
mean,
do that, but it could.
yeah. I mean, it is wild that it's gonna be that long, but at the same time, I mean, I don't think it matters that much. Like, it's like,
No.
I mean, like these are actors. I mean, yes, he might be this old, but like, they're actors between
Yeah.
makeup and most of them generally just having good genetics, any youthful genetics
Mm,
anyway. He'll probably be fine. Plus, he
yeah.
wears a mask half the movie anyway.
And where's a mask? Worst case, if it matters that much, you can use like de-aging technology if you have to, which I don't think you'll have to.
I think that's
So,
unnecessary. He'll be
yeah.
fine. I mean, most of the movies in shadows, so, like you can hide that stuff pretty well in a Batman
Yeah.
movie. I feel like.
But yeah, I am all for this Penguin showing up in anything else. I'm all for any other movies or shows taking place in this continuity. As long as they
Absolutely.
keep a similar vibe with this Gotham, I am all for it.
This they got Gotham right, definitely in this.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else about any of these shows you want to say before we wrap up?
A year that didn't seem to have too much stuff actually had some pretty solid stuff at the top.
Yes, absolutely. Like both Agatha and the Penguin, both big shows that I didn't think I wanted / thought would be very good going into them, ended up being incredible. uh, and some things that I was more excited for ended up not meeting up for super high expectations, but also Creature Commandos, a show that I don't even think I knew about going into the year, ended up also being really good. So yeah, and I think the year we're in now has potential to be either one of the greatest years for superhero stuff ever or one of the biggest duds. If both Superman and Fantastic Four are both terrible, that's not gonna be very that's
No,
not good.
yeah, I mean, I remember thinking this, but like 2024 kind of as a whole was kind of like a one step back year so we can have 2 steps forward in
Hmm.
2025 with a lot of things because there's a lot of like anime that's supposed to come out next year, a lot of movies. I mean, we're getting a lot of big stuff because we're getting a lot of stuff supposedly this year. So
Yeah,
which I'm sure we'll talk about next time, but like,
absolutely.
just it's time, man.
Yep. All right. So yeah, let us know down below what some of your favorite comic book project for this year. Were there any that we liked that you didn't like? Any we didn't talk about that you did like? Let us know all that down below. And with that, we will see you all next time.
Take care.